use my microphone, but I don't think that's going to happen. Hello, Antonio. So let me make everything is set up now. I think your social security. Hold on for a second. Let me log off. This probably was the problem with YouTube. Hello, Paul. I keep um coming in and coming off on YouTube, but I do want to say this as we're loading up. Um, okay, I think my connection now is strong on YouTube. YouTube, give me some thumbs up if I'm good. If you can hear me well, if you can see me well. Let me know. Give me the thumbs up on YouTube. Periscope, we're in. All right, thank you, thank you, thank you. For some reason, it takes longer to load on Facebook. Yeah, but Facebook is in the house. I have them live. I think I got Instagram, and I now have my Periscope audience as well. So Periscope, let me move this over so we'll be the center of everything, and you all will be involved in the discussion as well. So frequently asked questions. Thanks for the thumbs up. You definitely will want to take notes at this point, right? That would be a great idea. You all can't see me. I'm in my workout gear, my queen of credit shirt on, so I have to stand up for Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. Make sure you hit like and you hit share. And so I have purchased a lot of products from other people. You know, I have no problem. Everything I can read about credit, I do. I read about it, I study about it, I research about it, maybe a little obsessed about it, right? But I do it, and I love because I feel like credit is your financial game plan, right? It's the your three-digit number that's the foundation, right, of your finances and your money worries or money issues, right? And so I say all the time that budgeting is fine, right? Budgeting is fine. Um, but if you all would just pause and hold your questions to the end, I can get those questions answered. I will tell you this, I will cover debt collections, charge offs, uh, just frequently asked questions. I have a list of them. And if you all just hold on and, um, wait to the very end to ask, um, you know, then that'll make this transition, everything go smoother. But I will say this, I'm trying to make sure that my YouTube, I can see the questions as they come on YouTube as well. I will say this about debt collectors and stopping them from calling. One thing you definitely will want to do with a debt, thank you for the digital love, as far as a debt collector, is you want to answer the phone, right? You don't want to avoid the phone calls. Thank you for the thumbs up. You want to answer the phone and request that they send you any information in writing, right? So there is ways to deal with debt collectors. With you don't want to identify yourself to get any personal information or verification of your identity over the phone. For example, most debt collectors, when they call you, they will ask your name first. Hello, is this, for example, Miss Deloach or Latanya Deloach or something on those terms? Um, Instead of identifying or verifying your name or who you are over the phone, you will want to say, may I ask who's calling, right? That technically is not identification. At that point, they will proceed to go on. This is XYZ from, whatever company or agency I'm calling in reference to this account or this debt. Then you will want to respond, I'm not aware of that. And you probably will be at work at the time. I'm at work at the time. I don't have time to discuss this issue over the phone. Will you please send me something in writing? And then when they send it to you in writing, you will see the disclaimer, or you will see in the small print, right, that you have 30 days to ask for validation. And a lot of people don't want to deal with debt collectors. Uh, they are afraid to deal with debt collectors, and a lot of that reason being is because they don't know that they also have laws to protect them, just like as you would on your credit report, and when dealing with debt collectors, right? And so with debt collectors, what you want to do is know all of the information that they are supposed to have on file when they bought or purchased your debt, when they paid for your debt. Now, if you know the laws and the language, it is very legal that if they do not have the information on file, that they are not legally obligated to collect that debt for you, and you owe nothing. But the name of the game is to get everything done in writing and to have a track record, because what you do not want to do is get to a point where you ignore your 30-day window, right, to request for validation. And just know that medical collectors have more validation, more debt collectors to validate than regular debt buyers, right? So with medical, not only do they have to have your original contract with your bearing your signature, right? This is true for your credit reports as well as debt collectors, right? So that's why it's illegal for debt collectors to even report a collection on your credit report initially in the first place, because they do not have firsthand information or knowledge of validation that that is correct and true information concerning you. Right. So it's not legal for debt collectors to report it. Right. But if you don't state the law, if you don't bring out that point that is illegal reporting, then that collection will remain on your credit report. Um, Also, with medical collections, which range into the 5-digit numbers, when it comes to medical collections, you want to be proactive. I also challenge and require debt collectors for my clients to produce this information, this documentation that they are supposed to be on file. 9 times out of 10, they just purchase the debt, and that's their only concern. That's their only uh, motive is to buy your debt, to buy it cheap. And what I mean by cheap is pennies on the dollar. For example, if it's $1,000, they may have spent $50 to $100 on buying that debt. And what debt collectors do is they know that within the first 30 days of contact with you, they have no legal jurisdiction to collect that debt. So what they will do is pressure you one or two ways by making consistent phone calls to you in forms of harassment, right? Because they want to put pressure on you through phone calls, through scare tactics. They have been legally trained that within the first um, 3 to 5 minutes of a phone call to eradicate your information of verification. Who you are, is this your address, and for admission of the debt or that you receive some type of services from the original company, right? So they have been trained to get this information through harassment type tactics from you. So you need to handle this not with your emotions, right? But with knowledge that I give to you with this free knowledge and information. And so when it comes to medical collections, you often looking at numbers in the 5 digits that range over $10,000 or higher. And if people would invest in my services, it would save them thousands and thousands of dollars from paying debt collectors, because 9 times out of 10, um, they do not have those original documentation on file. One of the questions I received is, let me try to find it because I've had my answers written down, but I wasn't. I was had it planned how I was gonna go into the flow. of things. And then and I don't have an issue with that, but you all asked a question um, about debt collectors. So that's where we started, right? That's where we started. So you have two of your most popular uh, debt collectors or collection agencies is often Midland Funding and portfolio recovery. Um, and so that's usually no issue in getting that removed from your credit report, whether it's medical and regular collections are usually in my area the easiest ones to get removed first, right? Because they never have that documentation needed, right? And so the next question that I get most often is, okay, what if, what if it's game over if they provide proof of my signature after the first letter, right? Is that it? So I want you to understand that when it comes to collection and debt collectors reporting your credit report, you're not just under the Fair Credit Reporting Act, you're also under the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act and also the Fair Credit Billing Act, right? And so, no, it's not game over because even on your credit report, they have to mark items as disputed regardless. So it's a good chance they violate the law and not place a notation on your report. And you also have to verify that the collector is even licensed to do business in your state. Um, okay, to do business in your state, and you also need to check the statute of limitations in your state for on the debt. So, like for Mississippi, it's 3 years. For the northern states up north, I mean, statute of limitation, I think for Kentucky is like 10 or 15 years, just right off the top of my head. But they have to produce evidence that is correct, right? And this is where most people can't. Most people will try to Google debt validation letters and send in, and then the debt collector will send them back like an itemized bill, right? An itemized bill, and then you don't know how to respond to that. But under the law, a printout of a bill or statement or where you did receive services is not validation, right? That is not validation. And so, what happens uh, if you go to court? You can go. I would represent myself in court. I have represent myself in court when it comes to debt collectors. At that point, you don't have any legal documentation that you put anything in writing, but you can go and try to protest your case if you have some knowledge of the law. And that's why with debt collectors, I always have these are using my debt collectors return receipt. You always need to know who signed for it and when it was mailed. And then when I mentioned sending things certified, this is certified. So with debt collectors, everything is always mailed certified with the return receipt. It's always best when you represent yourself in court to have these documentation that you did send a letter and the letter stating that you did request validation, right? Validation. So it's not just good enough to Google a letter because what you all don't know is that the FTC is also involved, and the law of the FTC is also involved when it comes to debt validation. I have my pink mic, but I couldn't set it up properly. And so these are all facts that save people hundreds and thousands of dollars. And so you can represent yourself in court. At that point, hello, Miko. I would thank you for the digital love. I would recommend that you do show up in court because what a lot of debt collectors do is when you do not respond within that 30 days, usually they wait 30 to 90 days, 1 to 3 months, and then they will subpoena you to court. At that point, it becomes a legal jurisdiction, and usually they just win by default. When debt collectors show up at court, they have this is my Bible, but they have a stack of debts or portfolios that they have purchased, And usually the judge will just rule for them to have permission to garnish your check because you don't show up, right? But if you showed up and say, well, judge, they didn't validate the debt correctly, but I would not show up without knowing the legal terms of jargon to represent myself. You just can't show up in court and say, thank you, Miss Gwen. She said good information that they did not validate my debt, because under law, you need to know what validation looks like, what it consists of. Now, the second question I get most often is, should I pay off an old collection or my credit report, right? Should I pay off an old collection? It's 7 years old. It's supposed to be removed within 7 years. It's reached the uh, 7 years reporting that a credit agency has to report. Well, if you know anything about FICO and your Vantage score, example of Vantage scores would be Credit Karma, Credit Sesame, those scores. FICO stands for Fair Isaac Company, right? Fair Isaac, that company is the company the one that made up the model of what will put you in the 350 to the 850 range. What categories, 35% of payment history. I have my board back here. I may or may not have to use it, but they created this model of what will consist of a high credit score. What would a person with an 850 credit score profile look like? And that's why it's called FICO in short, FICO. So that's why it's called FICO in short. Let me see what this prompt here. And so if you look on Credit Karma or your Credit Sesame account, it will tell you this is a Vantage scoring model, right? The thing about it, I think in 2016, uh, the FICO score was updated to where your medical collections will not hurt your credit score. So that was called the FICO 9, right? They have FICO 8, FICO 9, I think even FICO 6, there wasn't. But the thing about it, most banks use FICO 8, or you're getting approved for a vehicle loan, home loan. They use the FICO 8 model. And so even with some of your credit cards and your bank institutions, they will give you free credit monitoring, right? But sometimes it might be the FICO 9 model, right? Which is good. It's still FICO, right? And so when people tell me I paid down um, or I paid off my vehicle, my score dropped, I would first ask them, what score are you talking about? Are you talking about the score you see on Credit Karma? Are you talking about the score you see on your True FICO? Or are you looking at myfico.com? So once you want to know what the banks will look at, what the lenders will look at, because your Vantage score, your Credit Karma score, may be 50 to 100 points less than what the actual banks that you're trying to get credit approval will be looking at, right? If you're trying to purchase a home. And so this is just a side note, something you all need to make a notation of as well, that most FHA loans require you just to have two good standing accounts in your name. So let's see how this looks. Um, two positive reporting accounts in your name if you're dealing or using FHA. And so these are just things, two uh, good account types to qualify for an FHA loan, right? So you sometimes for most people it can be an installment loan, like you've had a vehicle finance or a mortgage and one good credit card, right? And so what FICO, Fair Isaac, most banks are going to use, and you can go to myfico.com and pull your score that the banks will look at. And so what your Vantage score would show is more so your credit age, right? But your FICO, and what I mean by credit age, like on credit karma, for example, it will show your average credit age. Okay, they've had accounts for this. length of time for this many years. FICO will show your payment history, meaning that when accounts are open, how long have you been paying on those accounts, and how long have you been paying satisfactory, right? But your credit age will be determined, and your Vantage score, how long have you had age of accounts, period. How long were you 18 when you had this credit card or when you got this student loan? And what's the overall age of all of your accounts average combined. But FICO look at, okay, you've had a vehicle finance for 60 months, which is 5 years. So let's look at your history of this account. And so once you have something like, for an example, a paid collection, and it had history on it, paying it off sometimes will damage your score, or trying to give it removed. What if the debt is your, what type of debt? Someone on YouTube asked, what is the debt is mine? Uh, can I still get it deleted? FHA loan. Balance coaches on YouTube. More information about FHA loans. If you're in the process of trying to get approved for a home now, whoever your realtor, your broker is, or maybe someone you're considering that will finance, I will ask those questions to my mortgage company that I'm trying to get financed firsthand, right? So I do know, but with conventional loans, you probably have to have three accounts in good standing. So another question I get most often, then what if the debt is mine? What should you do if you paid off an account? You was brought to court, but the company reported it inaccurately. What type of account? What type of account is it? Are you saying? Well, I'm just going to assume you're talking about a debt collection account. It was reported inaccurately. It could get in. Look, even if the debt is yours, they said I settled, but you didn't settle. Okay, did you show up in court? So you showed up in court. They said you settled, and you did not settle. And now, do they have permission to go on your check or account? Hello, Mike. Thanks for the digital love. And yes, I've heard of NACA, balance coaches. NACA usually give you a very good educational format of what you need and things you have in place to qualify for a mortgage loan. The company forever stopped accepting my checks and stated my account was wrong. Okay, well, that company, you should have request them to validate your account first of all, to make sure that they have all the documentation that they're supposed to have in place. If they are reporting it on your credit report, even if the debt is yours, someone on YouTube asked that. Even if the debt is yours, um, then it can be reported inaccurately, right? That's why with my success, I never, my clients never state anything in writing saying that this is not mine, right? Even if you find an account that's not yours, right? You want to state that, hey, I must be a victim of identity theft or misfiles. This account is placed on my, credit report, and I have no knowledge of it, right? What this who this account may be. A lot of times it may happen with divorcees, or someone added you on an authorized user or something of that nature. So when you go to court, I will follow up to that agency in writing and request validation. It's not too late to request validation if they cannot validate your debt. And if it comes to court again, now you can have your certified letters and return receipts showing that you request validation. It was some inaccuracies in the balance, right? And you have not been provided with that information. Also, YouTube, you all asked me to do this a better chance, but On YouTube, I tried to go live on my um I tried to go live, and my laptop wouldn't allow me, so I had to go live on my phone YouTube. So I'm sorry I didn't put my, and hold on YouTube, I need to switch over to the live chats. Uh, okay. All right, yeah, I switched over to the live chat. So YouTube, I also accept super chats to answer those questions. Another question, at this point, um, on Periscope, I definitely would reach out to me, show me the debt collector, send it, scan in the email at LD. My name is Latanya. I have it on this Queen of Credit shirt. So it's LD, D as in Danny, at fixmycreditandcash.com. LD at fixmycreditandcash.com. Yes, there is a difference between validation and verification. Validation is what you ask the credit debt collectors to show or produce to you. Verification is what the credit agencies, the three Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian have to produce. So that's why I tell people all the time, it's all about the letter, the language, and knowing the law, right? You have to know what language to speak to what companies because it's not all the same. LD at, not AT, but the symbol at fix my credit and cash.com. LD symbol at fixmycreditandcash.com. So some people ask me, okay, I have public record, maybe a bankruptcy on my credit report. I have collection accounts, and should I get started with getting my late payments reversal? You could start there. Um, yes, that's correct email. You could start there, but it will have less impact, right? It will have less impact on your score. So you first start with collection accounts and public records. Um, because they have more impact on your score. Now, under the FICO model, we talked about FICO starting out in myfico.com. Only negative items, right? Thank you. That's correct, Facebook. Thank you so much, Keisha. Only negative items reported within the previous 2 years should be disputed. And that's why I tell people all the time, we listen to people that say, hey, that collection is 5 years old. You need to get deleted, or it's 6 years old, 7 years old. At this point, under your FICO model, is which the banks use, is not harming your credit report. And it only if it's paid now. Only if it's paid. If it's a paid collection, right, then it's really helping your payment history, right? And so if you get a credit evaluation or analysis, is what I do, and someone is saying, well, you have 10 collections and they're trying to delete a collection from 2014. At this point, that's money not serviced well because it's not factoring or hurting your credit score, right? Uh, Sometimes when you're trying to get qualified for a home or mortgage lender, they will suggest that you negotiate or try to settle for a charge off in a collection. Their only thing is they want to see that it's paid. I tell people all the time too to be aware of that because um, once you pay it, right? Once you pay it, it's you can receive a 1099 form in the mail for the balance difference. So, for example, if it's a $12,000 charge off and they settle for $2,500, right? Then you can definitely receive a 10,000 or $9,500 1099 form in the mail, and for you that will be income that's added onto the money that you make every year, and that money will be taxed usually around a 36% interest rate. So they're getting you on the tail end of paying even astronomical interest fees and taxes, right? Um, and so you need to be aware of that. So some people will argue that, hey, if I can just get those charge off and collections deleted, right, then off my credit report, And with collection agencies, if I could just uh, legally not owe the debt because they don't have documentation in place, even on the Fair Credit Billing Act, your charge off for credit cards, they have to have documentation in place as well with all of your account balances, notations, the interest rate to the T. And that's something you were saying on Periscope, that if you went to court, you can also use the Fair Credit Billing Act law that your balance is not correct, or that they added extra or fees or interest onto this account, right? And so sometimes in some situations, there's more than one law or language that I include for my clients, right? Um, but I will get something. No, inquiries is a totally different service, Antonio, totally different. Totally different. Did you all know? And speaking of inquiries, it's something, and I'm trying to stay on tack because I'm on more than one platform. But I think I wanted to also tell you about old collections and charge-offs, right? Uh, if it's older than 24 months, did you all know this? And show me some digital love. Hit the hearts or the like or the thumbs up. I'm all on all platforms where everybody can either hit the thumbs or the heart. That if you're paying it late and it was already been transferred to collections or become a charge off, and it's older than 24 months, because this does not affect your credit score severely. I told you the only thing, thank you for the digital love Periscope. The only thing that affects your credit score severely is accounts within 24 months or within 2 year period. Did you know that if you suddenly pay on an old derogatory account, that it will cause your credit score to go down more because it will update the date of the last activity on your account? So that means if it was older than 2 years, thank you for that. That's something to give digital love about because I'm dropping some credit knowledge. And I guess this is why people call it credit church. I should be passing the offering plate for giving you this word and information. But that updates your date of last activity. Now you're back in that 2 year window. So you're listening sometimes to mortgage lenders, and and they tell you, hey, just pay it off, or pay something, now your update of last activity, right, is updated, and that's going to drop your score even more. So it's best to get an expert like myself and my services to look at that information, and to make them validate and produce that documentation as required so it can be deleted or removed from your report altogether. Right. So that's another thing that I wanted to bring out. But inquiry removal is a totally different service. Let me see what I have in my notes. Uh, I brought up late payments, recent late payment within the last 2 years. Did you all know that, for example, you have an 850 credit score, that a late payment can drop your credit score 150 points or more? So, or really 100, yeah, 150 points. So your 850 could turn into a 675 overnight. So set up automated billing, right? To pay your bills on time, right? So I mentioned that FHA requires two accounts for a conventional if you're trying to get approved for a loan. Another thing, closing credit cards, right? Dave Ramsey is very popular for this. Cut up your credit cards, and then when people cut them up, they close them. But did you know, if you, for example, if you close a credit card with a $5,000 limit, you will reduce your available credit. Well, let's say, uh, okay, let's say you owe one credit card with a $10,000 limit, a debt on it, right? And on that credit card with the $10,000 debt, you have a $20,000 limit, right? You have a $20,000 limit, right? Where if you don't use the card over time, they may close the account. So sometimes it's good to just swipe it for gas, $25, $50 a month to keep that credit card open. So you have a credit card, you owe $10,000 on it. It's a $20,000 limit, right? And so you will be using like 50% of your available credit. Now, let's say you have another credit card with $5,000 limit on it, right? Now it shows your available credit that you had the $25,000. It shows you have $25,000 because this is how FICO calculates your debt ratio. So you have two credit cards, right? One with $20,000 limit, one with a $5,000 limit, but you only owe a $10,000 debt on the $20,000 credit card. So you say, hey, I'm in credit card debt. I'm frustrated. I'm gonna close this card, cut it up. Now your debt ratio will increase and cause your score to drop even higher because it was showing overall that you owed $10,000, but you had $25,000 availability. Now you went from uh, adding like 60 more percent because now it's going to show you just dropped $5,000 when you close one credit card. Let's say you owe zero on that one. Now it's going to show your debt ratio. Well, if the first scenario, your debt ratio was like 60% because it showed you owe $10,000 on $25,000 available credit limit. Now you're at 50% because now your credit limit has dropped by $5,000 and you have $10,000 debt. So those are reasons to not close credit limits. And another thing, also inquiries are getting hard pulls on your credit report. I told you that FICO and Vantage scores are different. Your Vantage score looks at your credit age, but your FICO score look at your payment history. So once you add new credit or you get new credit added to your credit report, you can very possibly see your credit karma or your Vantage score drop because now it's minimizing your credit age or your credit age is getting less and less because it calculated. And so um, you need to be careful about getting those pulls on your credit reports. Um, my thoughts on store credit cards versus credit card, Visa, Mastercard. For people that's rebuilding their credit, let's say they have a very thin credit file and they may have a store card or charge card. Um, I do suggest that you try to have, store cards that have a high credit limit because now when you go to apply for those Visa cards, um, they will often look at your credit limit of your highest charge card. So, for example, sometimes I mention to people to get a My Jewelers Club charge card because My Jewelers Club, when they're rebuilding their credit, right? And let's say they got all the negatives removed, but what people don't understand, in order to have over a 700 credit score or 680 or 800, you have to have positive reporting, right? You just can't have nothing on there. Nothing will still give you a low score. And so I suggest My Jewelers Club, for example, because then that gives you a $5,000 charge card credit limit. And what usually the banks look at, like Visa, MasterCard, Discoveries, they look at your highest credit limit and they say, okay, she have a 5,000 or he has a $5,000 charge card that they're handling responsibly. So we'll match that credit limit at $5,000. One of the things that I did when I got my first business card, credit card, was someone added me as an authorized user because my personal credit card credit limits at that time was like $5,000. And so someone with a $10,000 Bank of America personal card added me on as an authorized user and for their $10,000 card. And I was able to get my first business card approved for $10,000. But this is when I had my personal credit over 720. I had a mixture of installment loans, which are installment loan, your vehicle loan, auto loan, or a mortgage loan. Um, and I had major credit cards. My limits was just really low. So that at that point, adding a AU or authorized user helped me get my first business card at $10,000, and now my highest business card is at $25,000. So I think I answered the question. Collection agencies call us crazy, calling me like crazy, think I could do. It's generally not a good idea to talk with debt collectors or collection agencies on the phone. You can make them stop. Just get the correct mailing address and from the agency, and write to them and ask them, cease and desist, to stop calling me, to send me anything in writing. But you do want to at least answer the phone and request something in writing, because that's the only way. If it's not written, it's not real, right? If it's not written, it's not real. Um, Another question I get: I have a credit monitoring service with another service, and the scores are way different than my bank, my FICO.com, or other scores. Why? So I talked about that. Credit scores fluctuate depending on the provider, and it's a difference in your Vantage score and your FICO score. Just know there are 19 different versions of even your FICO score. So you need to know which one the banks use. Another question, I think I answered this: should I pay off old charge off if I can? Sometimes, people talk about to pay for deletion, and just know that we'll update your date of last activities. So before you pay, make sure you get an authorized representative letter, asking for your original signature, and see if they have the documentation on file. Or old closed accounts hurt my score. Should I work on getting them removed? These are questions I get as well. Are old closed accounts hurting my score? Should I get work on getting them removed? If you close them, paid them, and the accounts are in good standing, they are not doing your credit scores any harm. And on the contrary, it may actually help your average age if they are very old. So I talked about, paying old code collection account. Um, so now, if the creditor closed the account now because of payment issues, then they are derogatory. So just know, and that's why I tell people, sometimes they don't understand what I do, and I understand it because I'm not doing it the way a lot of people. I don't do it yourself letters, because everyone credit report is different, and a lot of do it yourself. I purchased from one of the leading experts on a do-it-yourself program, because I purchased your do-it-yourself program. I want to know, and I won't call this person's name out of respect for what they do. Um, but this was just, I folded the letter because the logo is on the bottom, right? And I want to know, hey, I want to really see if these do-it-yourself products really, really work. And they pretty much said, they came out and said, this is your handwritten letters. It's best if you handwrite to get disputes done. Hello, Barbara. Hello, hello, hello. And some people say if you get it notarized. Listen, if you get a template letter notarized, it's just a template letter notarized. It's no big thing. Or if you're getting template letters, uh, affidavits, a template letter may not fix your situation. So the best way I can describe my difference of what I do: I'm not a credit repair business. What does a credit repair business profile look like? Well, usually they have to, under the CROA, Credit Repair Organization Act, they have to have you on a month-to-month plan of accepting monthly payments, right? Uh, maybe a brick and mortar business, they may have to have insurance. I don't want to deal with all of those. I don't want to deal with and hire my employees, or they're going to be independent contractors, or, W-2 workers. And so I didn't want to do all that. And then oftentimes when people are paying $100 a month, that's a good question, Periscope. I'll get to that in a minute. For example, $100 a month for a monthly credit repair. The process is slow and methodical, and then they pay maybe $1,200 if they stay for a year. and they're not seeing the results, right, that they need. And so, and I'm not your do it yourself, because do it yourself is not customized. It doesn't fit everybody's situation, right? Telling everybody to do the same thing might not be in the best interest of their client. So, if I would have given myself a name, I would have called myself a credit doctor, but the community began to call me Queen of Credit. And this is why, because what a doctor do is you have to visit, you get an evaluation. So what I give people, a credit evaluation, you have to email me your credit report or credit analysis, right? You have to physically come in. You can't get prescription over the phone. So the first protocol to contact with me is via email, right? No free phone calls, no free over the phone, because if I can't see your paperwork, then I can't see what's best to improve your FICO score, right? The email again on Periscope is LD Latanya Deloach at fix the symbol at LD at fix my credit and cash.com. And someone please type that in the comments for me. And so you come into the doctor, he has to give a physical, or she has to give a physical examination, which is what I do with your credit, right? Under the FICO model, not through your Vantage score. I don't tell you to, pay off this account, or hey, if I give people strategies. Sometimes people want to pay off an installment account, and their credit age maybe on their Vantage score has decreased, but this is not what the banks looked at anyway. So I ask people, okay, do you want better credit to create more cash flow, or are you trying to get a higher FICO score because you may want business funding? And so I look at your physical paperwork first, and then just like a doctor, I write prescribed credit affidavits that fits you and you only, to get you the results you need, that's personalized to you. See, my daughter and I, we had the same symptoms, right? We were coughing, sinus infection, allergy infection, sore throat. She went to one clinic and one doctor who gave her a different prescription medication uh, than my doctor. We had different antibiotics. She had 500 milligrams for 3 days. I had 100 milligrams for 10 days, right? And I had to take twice a day. Thank you so much, Keisha. And so, for entering my email. And so, even though our symptoms on the surface seemed like it was the same, they did a detailed inspection to show that, hey, we didn't. And our prescriptions were different, right? And so that's why everybody credit, in order to get, it depends on your goals. Okay, no, don't delete this, don't pay this. You need validation on this before you spend thousands of dollars of selling it. Have you looked at the Fair Credit Billing Act that requires a signature for a debt to be valid? Someone on YouTube say, hey, what if the debt is mine? I'm sure it is. That's why I don't dispute. I challenge, right? Um, Antonio, just send me an email about inquiry removal. It's a point I want. I keep making. I'm gonna make that point, Antonio, in a minute. So the Fair Credit Reporting Act, the Fair Credit Billing Act, and the Fair Debt Collections Act require a signature on the original consumer contract for a debt to be valid. Understand that? Even if it's yours, where's my contract that you're supposed to have on file to report it? Where is it? Right. Usually times they don't. And so, and this is what charge off come into play, collection. Um, so those are questions. Let me make sure, and Antonio, I haven't forgot about your inquiries. Um, all right, let me see. La, 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 la. When does my 30-day countdown start? I get that question a lot as well. The moment the letter is signed by the recipient. So your 30 days starts as soon as your collection agencies or um, credit agencies or debt collectors receive. So when you send it certified, this is your tracking number on the side of the certified. As soon as it tells you that this has been successfully received, then that's the 30-day countdown window start, including Saturdays and Sundays, including the weekends, right? Um, Also, you would get, I don't think I have it around me, a white envelope in the mail from the collection agencies. Uh, it's Equifax, Experian, TransUnion of your results. A lot of people, they don't look for this. They don't know what it looks like. Tell them I didn't get a letter, my 30 days. And then they find it in their mail 2 weeks and say, oh, it was in my mail, it was here. One thing I can say, they are really, really good at sending you a follow up within 30 days um, under the law. Also, debt collectors that you know that out of state debt collectors legally cannot collect from you as well. They have to be in your county, in your state. I always use the tracker for your mail. What tracker? I know you can just go to USPS.com with the U.S. Postal Service. Inquiries. I always get inquiries because I have people that either want to be home owners or looking through my notebook or my notes. I want to homeowners or so. Right now, I'm just going to be right off the top of my head. And did you know that sometimes people get denied for a home because they have more than six inquiries, um, more than six inquiries in 6 months, or business credit as well. And Facebook, my battery is getting low, so I'm trying to stay with you as long as I can. So, um, with inquiry removals, did you all know that you have to have a firm credit offer in order to legally uh, dispute that? Let me see. Okay. In order for them to really pull your contract, you just can't be walking through the park and they say, "Hey, would you like to apply for this credit by the credit law?" Man, I'm just not looking at this. I really like this shirt because it looked like a Nike swoosh. I just not saw that subliminal sign. I'm sorry. That just it's kind of like a Nike swoosh. If you all know, I coach basketball as well, so I really like this shirt. I do strategies, X's and O's to be successful on the court. I also do that for your financial planning, right? As well, I love strategizing. I love winning when it comes to the sport game and financial game. That's why I tell people you got to have a game plan. Oftentimes, and this is on topic but off topic, we look at a winning coach's wins. Oh, they had 900 wins in 10 years of coaching. We never look at the losses. And I tell people, don't judge me just by my wins. Judge me by my losses because I usually don't have any losses in credit. Because usually they may have 9 or 10 losses, and that's a big deal. The wins are a big deal, but having 9 or 10 losses in 10 years is even bigger. That means they average on maybe one loss for 1 year of their coaching. So the loss category to me is just as big and significant as the win. Okay, so I think I answered that. They have to show you the written signed contract, even if the debt is yours. Now we're going to talk about inquiries. Inquiries hurt your credit report if it's high, anywhere from 3 to 35 points. You have a low credit score, anywhere from 2 to 25 points. Depends on how many you have. You can get disqualified for business credit as well as home loans. So you definitely, people with over 800 credit score, you have no inquiries report on their credit report at all in the last 2 years. My coworker he has an 811. He had no pulls on his credit report showing in the last 2 years. And so if it's not a firm offer, they have to have permissible purpose to pull your credit, and it's a firm offer for approval. Those are the basis to get inquiries removed off your credit report, and you need to keep that clean. So that's it. That's it. That's it. That's it. That's it. That's all my questions that I frequently get. Let me go over my notes. Um, any other questions, real quick? Oh, I think you asked on Periscope. Is it best to pay off my credit cards completely or to keep a balance? I think I got that question on Periscope. Antonio, yeah, as soon as I get off. Then no, collectors could collect in your state if not from. No, they cannot. That's just one of the many things that collectors have to produce for you. I have found that keeping, like, if you have $1,000 credit line, you want to keep that balance between $100 to $300. That would really optimize your score, right? That's the sweet spot between 10 and 30%. So if you, for example, have $1,000 credit line or limit, paying it off in full, $100 a month, or just charging $100, no more than $300, keeping it paid off and keeping that monthly transaction for payment history helps your credit score. Now, paying off the balance in full, you will have no interest on the account, no matter if it has interest rate on the card. So also, you need, this is something that Credit Karma is good for. It will provide you what is the closing date of all of your credit cards, or the reporting date. What day do they report your balances to your credit score? So once you know what's the reporting date, you pay down those balances as low as you can. That will keep you at a high credit score. Um, and so that will keep you at a high credit score. So I do, recommend that if you can't pay it off in full every month, if you want to avoid interest rates, then at least keep your ratio between 10 and 30%, and try to pay anywhere from 50 to 75% of the amount that you owe. So if like a $5,000 card, for example, 10% of 5,000 would be a $500 credit limit. If you can't pay the full $500 off in full every month, at least try to pay 250, or 70% of that would be $350 or something like that. But you will be charged interest on the remaining balance, right? So I use my credit card like a debit card. For example, I have a $25,000 Navy Fed card. I got like $100 in cash back just for using my credit card like a debit card, and cash back rewards by paying those balances full in every month. Your credit score as it relates to auto insurance. Then I'm closing. If you have a 725 credit score or higher, for example, uh, then you'll get a 25%. Did you all know this? Yes or no? Whether you watch this live or the replay, you will get a 25% discount on your auto insurance. Okay, I answered that on Instagram in a few minutes. If you have between a 625 and a 724, a 17% discount. 525 and 624, you'll have a 10% discount. And if your credit score is 524 or lower or below, you will have no discount on your auto insurance. So 725 or higher, get you a 25%. Yeah, didn't know that on Facebook. What can be done if you have paid off a couple of loans, but they are still small balances showing? How can I get that corrected? Is it on your credit report? As it relates to that question, that's something that I do, and it's not something that I would, answer without. Okay, you can get those balances updated to show zero balance, especially if the account was paid with good payment history and in good standing, right? Um, and you can get that updated to show zero balance on your fair credit reporting act, on your credit report under the fair credit reporting act. I've already answered the question. Should I uh, close credit cards that you don't use? I don't recommend that. Keeping your score high as possible. It's better to keep those accounts open. This also I broke down your utilization ratio. And yes, Keisha says she's an insurance agent, and credit does make a big difference on your rate. The last thing, my statute of limitation, I discussed that earlier. Northern states are really, really high, on which you will not owe a debt. Some northern states, I would say. Texas is like 4 years. Mississippi is 3 years. Yay for Mississippi. Louisiana is 3 years. Florida, 5 years. Georgia, 6 years. Hawaii 6 years, Idaho 6 years. Some of the Kentucky, wow, 15 years. Whoa, statute of limitations, 15 years on oral, on promissory notes, though, right? But you have to know the different statute of limitations by different accounts. So, for example, with Kentucky, a promissory note is 15 years, but on accounts like credit cards, it's 5 or 15 years. Or accounts that you didn't have to sign for, or that you have an oral contract for, which would in that case be a debt collection. So you have to know the law by different states. Somebody would tell you what statute of limitations on debt collector is 15 years in Kentucky. No, it's 5. It's only 15 if it's a written contract or promissory note. Alabama is different. So on written contracts, it's 3 years, the statute of limitations. Promissory notes, anything in writing, is 6 years. And on credit cards accounts, like charge offs and things like that, it's 3 years. So if they haven't collected in 3 years, for example, in Alabama, then it's past the statute of limitations anyway. And so, you need to be careful. I stated earlier about paying off old accounts to update your data lag activity anyway. You're welcome, Facebook. You're welcome. You're welcome. Mississippi is 3 years all across the board. Doesn't matter if it's written, and I'm from Mississippi, so that's one positive thing we have. Doesn't matter if it's written, promissory, oral, or credit cards or charge off. They only have 3 years, and if they don't collect in 3 years, it's done. All right, so hey, I'm signing off. Hold on for a second. Any more questions? I think my battery on Facebook has went down. Now I'm wrapping it up, so let me put this on the charger so I can try to save the video. Okay, so I'm trying to save that video. On Facebook, y'all, let me go to my gym. I just saw my Nike swoosh. Subliminal marketing, right? Queen of Critic here. Yeah, just reach out to me on Instagram at LD at Fix My Credit and Cash.com. LD at Fix My Credit and Cash.com. You also have your factor at your fair, accurate credit transactions at. I think I discussed everything. Let me go through my notes again. Okay. Oh, addresses and name removal. All right, 79% of all credit reports have some type of error. Now, someone on my YouTube channel kind of challenged me to say, hey, it's easy to get address removal. I want you all to do this. Go to Experian.com. You can sign up for free credit monitoring. You can look at your credit report for free. Then go to your personal information where it shows all your personal this information on Experian. And then I want you to try to delete addresses. So once you go on the personal information, you want to check to see if it has different variations of your name spelling. And then under addresses, go to address, and I would like to dispute. There are some things I do encourage people to dispute online. Addresses is one of them. So that's not a big deal. But of doing it, just your addresses is the only thing. You don't want to dispute anything else because you give up your legal rights, right, in court. And we talked about the courts by disputing online. And address removal is not as easy as people think, because if you click on an address or select an address and you put your dispute reason as just say never lived there on Experian, right? It will say you cannot dispute this online. When you click on why, it will show you this collection was made at this address. This one. So it's not that easy. The only easy addresses to get deleted off your credit report are the ones that do not have negative items. Thank you for the digital love connected with them. Those are the only ones. If your address have nothing negative connected with them, then that's easy. But other than that, it's not easy. And so your personal information, 54% of your personal information, like misspelled name, incorrect birthday, your wrong social, out of date address, um, these are things that should and that take points away off your credit score. But also removing negative addresses connected with negative accounts also helps you to get those negative accounts deleted as well once, because that's one method of verification that the credit agencies use to verify accounts. So when they come back and say quote unquote it's verified, if you don't delete the address, then that's one of their means of modes of verification. Also, I've had, especially military people, but sometimes non-military, excuse me, that have over 10 addresses, and it takes away points. Just getting old negative derogatory addresses clean from your credit report, I have added 50 points or more, right? Speak to my 50 points or more higher to credit scores just from address deletion and removal. So it's not easy. It's not easy for a reason. It's many games to be credits play. You got to know the X's and O's. I'm signing off because I'm on my way to the gym. Thank you so much for the digital love on Periscope. I enjoyed you all so much. Thank you for the hearts. Thank you for the digital love. Always my YouTube family, Instagram. Enjoyed you all as well. YouTube, I will put everything uploaded when I sign off, as well as Instagram and Periscope. Again, reach out to me via email before phone calls at ld at the symbol sign at fixmycreditandcash.com. You all have a great weekend. Thank you so much. Periscope, you have a great day as well. Here's the better credit and building your better cash flow, right? Building better credit and cash flow. So that's it. Let me try to save this. I think I know how to save. Oh, I think I'm hitting the wrong button on Periscope. All right, save the camera roll. And now, and let me end on my YouTube. YouTube, I always, I guess, end with